Hello, and welcome back to the Just Breathe podcast. Today we have the lovely Naomi Robertson with us, an OT who specializes in fascia. If you don't know what fascia is, don't worry about it. We're going to go into that in a minute. And today we're talking about how do you know that you're healing? The question that so many people ask, that so many people want. Naomi, welcome.
Hello.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank you for
much.
doing this. So exciting.
So happy to talk with you.
Yay. We've been planning this for a while. We're in different continents and you used to be in Israel, and we used to work together at the clinic and I miss you and I thought that this would be a lovely talk for people to hear. I think you have a lot of wisdom and a lot of great knowledge to share. You certainly you've certainly healed me before, so I think that people would be lucky to hear from you. Could you say a little bit about your background and what you would like to offer today? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and of course I miss Israel every day, hoping to come back as soon as possible. So,
Amen.
yeah. I'm Naomi. Nice to connect with you all. I my background, my training is in occupational therapy, and when I was in my program, I had a severe back injury, which led me ultimately to myofascial release, which is a healing modality that I'm very fond of. That this particular approach helped me a lot. Um, Initially with physical pain and physical issues, and eventually it turned into something that I became very passionate about offering to others. I worked with individuals on the autism spectrum for 18 years, mostly teens and young adults that are non-speaking. And I started out by doing a lot of sensory integration and more traditional occupational therapy work. And as I was going through some of my own personal issues and physical issues and doing a lot of body work, I found for myself that myofascial release and understanding the fascial system had the biggest impact on my life. And then I started offering it to my clients, and I sort of from there transitioned from working exclusively with people that are on the autism spectrum and, like I said, non-speaking, to working with women as well, just neurotypical people, and continuing to work on myself, and have been very blessed along the way to meet a lot of fantastic teachers and healers. And I'm a student for life, and I'm always learning, and anywhere that I can get information, more healing, more learning, I'm open to it. So that's a little bit of a background of how I got
Wow.
into the myofascial work.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for sharing that. It's
Yeah.
it's so true what you're saying. We kind of all are on this eternal growth, eternal learning bus, and we're just happy to be on it and help each other through and Baruch Hashem. So healing is something that is coming up a lot. We've had a couple of years of war in Israel, and the rest of the world has its own economic things, and everyone experiences life and loss and grief and sadness and all the other emotions that come up. And I remember once having a conversation with my supervisor, and she said something like, "You're not healed yet." And I was like, "What do you mean? I've done years of therapy. I've done years of work." I'm like, "Of course I am. Like, how can you say that?" And she explained it to me, and it was like, made so much sense once she broke it down. And I think that many people don't even know how much of survival they're living in and how much the body really is a part of the healing. And I guess my first question for you today is how many people go through so many years of talk therapy, and I'm not bashing talk therapy. Thank God for all the therapists out there. And it really does
Absolutely.
untangle, right? It really does untangle a lot of the thinking and the beliefs and the cognitive distortions that so many people have. And on the other hand, many people go through 10, 15 years of talk therapy and then they land up at us and the body work world and they're like, I just can't get better. I can't get healed. So my first question to you today is, how does the body have a role in healing?
Well, I would like to just start by saying that I was listening to someone, a rabbi, this morning give a talk, and the topic of the talk, it was about pain and the difference in how we move through life when we feel that our pain has a purpose versus when we feel our pain has no purpose.
Oh, wow,
Because the point,
absolutely.
right? Because every person that's listening to this right now, obviously myself included, and I know we've talked about this before. We all have, we don't have the same experiences, but we all experience pain. That's just part of being here on the planet. And not that we're getting into too much philosophy today or philosophical discussion, but I just wanted to start off by mentioning that because this rabbi said that, pain, it makes us crazy, actually, if we feel there's no purpose. It will make a person crazy. If you're just going through life experiencing pain all the time and it's like, why is this happening to me? We all want to just relieve ourselves of the pain. And it makes
Wow.
sense,
Yeah, yeah.
it's, um, so just something to think about to start the conversation. And as far as, being healed and, it is an interesting, I feel like it's almost a buzzword at this point. I see so many people talking about, oh, now that I'm healed and now that I've completed my healing journey.
Right. It's never
I,
complete. Never.
yeah, first of all, I think it's incredible, and for all of us, any of us that we are diving deep and looking at ourselves and not only asking the questions but really doing the work and trying to get to the bottom of, not just looking at symptoms but going beyond the symptoms and getting to the root of some of what's happening with us, and layer by layer. I would say each layer that we get to, or we peel back, I guess you could say, that would be another layer or another level of healing. I don't think anyone is ever healed, though. It's a continual process of just becoming more and more aware, and not to just say, oh, I'm comfortable with the pain. Oh, I'm in pain all the time, God forbid. And it's okay. It doesn't bother me. That's not the point either. But I do think it's this constant, never ending, just a balance, finding a balance of letting ourselves feel the pain. And we'll get into that a little bit more. What does that mean? And then also, you know, letting ourselves feel it. And then also, giving ourselves the grace to say, okay, I'm going through this for a purpose. There's a purpose for this pain. So it's also okay that this is happening to me right now. There's a condition, a medical diagnosis. I, I don't remember what it's called, but there are actually a small percentage of people in the world that do not physically feel pain. It's a very dangerous disorder
Right,
where
right.
their nerves don't function properly. They can't feel heat, they can't feel pressure, they can't feel anything,
It's very
and
dangerous.
it's extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
So yeah. So thank God that we do have that capacity. I think it just gets to be a problem when the pain is never dealt with, and it's just sitting there, and then we get the symptoms, and then that's why we're here.
Right, right, right.
um,
I love what you said. Sorry to interrupt, but I love what to add to what you said about it's never finished. It's not that you arrive at a healed moment and then you're done. We continue until the day that we
yeah.
pass away. It's continuous. And I think that a healed state or a version of us that can allow difficult feelings to pass through our bodies, that can not be totally afraid of those difficult feelings, that knows how to regulate ourselves, that can calm ourselves down, feel joy. So many people come to me and they cannot feel joy. Like that is, you always think that we have to deal with the hard emotions, but joy is something that so many
Mm,
people come and they're like, I just can't be happy. And
mm,
that's part of the healing process, is that we're never going to be perfect robots, right? We're going to be moments. It's almost like waves. It's like that energy moves in these waves, and I think the flow of that is a state of healing, because we're never not going to feel pain again if you're healed. Like you're saying, it's such a buzzword.
yeah.
You're never quite there.
And I think it's also challenging too, as, people who are therapists, healers, energy workers, whatever the label is. It's like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be the ones that are, people are coming to us wanting advice, and they're wanting help, and they're looking to us for that. And so we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to say, okay, we have to be perfect. I have to, let go of this, and I have to physically feel great, and I have to have all the answers. And I think that for someone who's really sort of the people that the teachers that I look up to and the people that have taught me the most are the ones that really admit that they are in a perpetual state of just being a student, and they're always learning, and there's always a deeper level to go.
Right.
There's always something more to work on, and thank God for that, because then we would be stagnant, and then it would be very depressing if we were fully healed, because then it's like, okay, so what else is
Now,
there to
yeah,
do?
now what? Now
We would
what?
all be very depressed.
That's
So,
funny. Yeah.
um, but to come back to your original question about, you asked about talk therapy.
And how the body has its role in the healing process.
Yeah. So, um, we've all experienced talk therapy, and it's very hugely beneficial and very important. And I think that what has happened in our society, it starts when we're very young, probably 3 or 4 years old, when we, start school. We, I was watching my daughter play this morning with a friend. They were delightful. Just, they made up their own language, and they were talking in their own language, and they were laughing, and they were running, and they were jumping. All right brain, creative, spontaneous, playful, and using their imaginations, total just hours and hours and hours of right brain activity. And from the time we start school, that aspect of our being is really sort of hammered down, and the emphasis and the priority is placed on left brain, analyzing, thinking, linear factual data, um, you know very heavily left brain oriented, and that's kind of how we have to move through the world, and that's how we've been trained. And both things are obviously extremely important. And what's happened is that most people are living 95% of their lives just in this left brain state of being, and completely forgetting that creative, that flow, that just um, other aspect of our being that's so intuitive. That's the feeling. When we talk about, oh, let's feel, feeling is healing, healing is feeling.
Yeah.
That's the aspect of ourselves that we all have the ability to tap into that. We just trained ourselves out of it, and society sort of trained us to get out of that way of being.
Well, it can be very
And
frightening. It can be very frightening to feel for someone who doesn't know what to do with those feelings.
well, absolutely. And the reality is that no matter what, through the symptomatic complexes that we get, the physical ones, that is really a sign from the body, that there are emotions, there are unprocessed things, there are things that are happening that are not being dealt with,
Right.
and now it's coming up through these different
Right.
symptoms.
Right. The body
So,
doesn't let you get away with it. It doesn't let you get away with suppressing those feelings.
right. And some of and so with the fascial work, what speaks to me so much about, and it does, and I think it's more than just fascial work. I think all body work has this potential, which is when we slow down and get out of this left brain and talking and analyzing, and we
Mm.
slow down enough to start feeling,
Right.
that is when true healing begins. And that
Correct.
is when the body can really start to effectively reorganize itself.
I
And
completely agree with you on that. Yeah, that's
yeah,
the point. That's the point. You could just spend months just getting someone to learn how to feel. A lot of people are very disconnected from their bodies.
right. Yeah, and we all are in our own ways. And so, I think talk therapy has incredible benefits, and I love it. I think it's wonderful. And I also think that it's important to recognize as well that that we cannot access what's in the subconscious. That's why it's, a lot of trauma, whether it was physical or emotional, it doesn't make a difference. That trauma that we've experienced at some point in our lives, it we sort of had to leave our body because we couldn't
Mm-hmm.
fully
Mm-hmm.
consciously stay with that moment. We had to
Correct.
kind of forget about it. And our
Correct.
body was protecting us. So we can talk and talk and talk and talk, but we can't access that aspect of what's going on, some of those deeper places. Those though That's the place that can come up more when we're in this right brain feeling safe to let go mode.
Right.
And there are many ways to let that happen. There are many modalities that can help with that. But I think that what's even more important than the modality and the protocol and the name, whether it's acupuncture, reflexology, or Reiki, or myofascial work, or whatever it is, I think it's a lot. It's what's even more important than all of those protocols and modalities is how safe is the person that's in front of me, how safe are they feeling to let go right now?
Oh my goodness, that's everything. That's everything.
That's like
Yeah.
that's all. That's like 90% of it, and from my based on my experience.
Right.
And I think people need to feel safe to let go, and some people don't even know what that means. When you
Correct.
say
Correct.
let now you can let go. What does that even?
They've never actually, so many people have never actually had that experience of feeling safe.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
It's amazing what the body can do
Yeah.
when it feels safe.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a woman recently, and she told me that she has tried so many different modalities, and she's a lovely person, and you can tell that she's the kind of person who's gone very deep with all of her work and her healing journey. And she was a little frustrated because she said, I've gone to so many people, and I've been very open-minded, and I have this, it's like feels like a straight jacket. I feel like
Mm.
I'm locked in a straight, it's like a straight jacket,
Mm.
and I can't get out of it. And she's described where the tension is and the pain. And she said, I can't get out of it. And I said, when do you think that started? And she shared with me that this was her first thought. She shared with me that when she was growing up, she had a lot of traumatic events happen, but one of them was, her father passing away when she was really young, and then a number of other events happened. And the message she always got when she was a child was that your pain doesn't matter.
Wow.
Like, you just please help the rest of the family. Help mom, help your grandparents, help every. And that was her job. It was like,
Yeah, the
you
good
have you
girl,
were
the good
yeah,
girl has
yeah.
to keep it all inside. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of like the parentified child. They have to be the adult. It's very sad.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I asked her, to tell me about, if there's anyone she's been to where it actually did make a difference. And she said there was one person that she went to, and I said, well, what did the person do? And she said, I just felt so safe being with this person. I felt so
Wow.
seen, and I felt that person wasn't judging me. I didn't feel like I was being judged for my issues. And
Wow.
and that was what did it for her. It wasn't how many degrees the person had and how many people the person trained with. It was that real human connection and meeting the person where they are. And we're all healing. The healer's healing, the student's healing, the healer's the
100%.
student, the student's the
100%.
healer. We're all learning from each other. And I think I shared this with you before. I think it's just one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard from a teacher. He said, um, to the therapist he was training, he said, you can only meet your clients or patients to this at the same level that you yourself have gone.
Right.
So
Yeah,
as
totally.
deeply as you've met yourself with your own pain and your trauma and your issues, how deep you've been willing to feel that and get into that and let yourself say, this is me. These are the things I'm owning this, or I'm letting go of this. That's how deeply we can meet the people that are in front of us. And it doesn't matter what words we say. People, it's almost like an instinct, an intuition. People feel, okay, I can let go now. They
Right.
feel it.
Right. It's almost like a frequency that reads itself. They've done studies on sound and how if you hit a tuning fork on one side of the room, it will pick up another tuning fork across the room will pick up that frequency because it recognizes it in the other, right? So it picks
Wow.
up. So I think that there's been studies on this, and I know it from horses on equine therapy and animals for sure have this field of energy that comes out meters out of their body, and I think that as a therapist, as a coach, as a healer or whatever kind of modality you're using, that your client senses that in your body, right? So
Absolutely.
us, like you said in the beginning, we have to be perfect and work on ourselves. It's funny because, I said as a joke once, how can a therapist be stressed out? I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And then someone said to me as a joke, you don't expect doctors not to get sick. Like we're human, right? So we're going
Yeah.
to be living the same pain that everyone else goes through. It's just that maybe we've learned certain tools like nervous system regulation, which is huge on the list of maybe if there was a ladder or steps that you could take towards healing. I think number one would for sure be learning how to regulate your body. And so many
Yeah.
people have no idea how to do that. It's right at
Yes.
the bottom of the list. Just breath, um, grounding, posture. They have no idea.
Yeah. I heard I also saw I was listening to a friend of mine the other day. She was giving this class about nervous system regulation, and she mentioned that this new study came out about what is actually happening to our nervous system when we're on social media and when we're scrolling through
Wow.
things. And she
Yeah.
said that what they found is people actually hold their breath
Oh,
and
wow.
and sort of get into an almost fight or flight kind of state as they're scrolling. And it has something to do with how much all this dopamine is being released, and people are not. It's causing a lot of dysregulation. It's really affecting. So I don't know how many of us here have social media, but that's a big one. Just the sheer amount of hours people spend every week, you know, hearing the news and getting their updates, and we've sort of as a culture become addicted to being informed and updated constantly. And I think that this is just a brand new addition to what's happening to us, in terms of our regulation, because this wasn't going on 30 years ago. Our parents weren't
Absolutely.
on their cell
Wow.
phones.
Yeah.
Not to say they didn't have their own stresses, but this is definitely a unique time and more relevant than ever for us to get in touch with ourselves. And I will say one thing that I do think that as therapists, even even though it's not realistic for us to tell ourselves or anyone to tell themselves, oh, I need to be healed. I need to, everyone talks about it. Oh, let's, but when we are, one big goal that we all should have would be to be centered and grounded when we are having our moments with our clients.
Right,
um
right.
and not just our clients. It should also be, you know God willing, in all aspects of our lives, but making that the goal, to be centered, to be grounded, particularly when we are having a session with other people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because
And,
our
and
clients feel everything.
absolutely. And what is the goal of many of our clients? They want to live healthy, fulfilling lives. And that's really the goal of healing, is that you can have healthy habits and ha healthy relationships with the people that you care for, and that someone will come in for snapping at their children and they don't want to live that way, right?
Yeah.
So we all want a similar goal, that we would like to live healthy lives. And you speaking about the scrolling, and it doesn't have to even be screen addiction, which is huge right now, but it could just be unhealthy habits. You don't even know that you're having these unhealthy habits. You're going
Right.
to work and you're fine. You think your relationships are fine, and then your body says, "Oh no, you're not."
Yeah.
Right?
I I have a friend of mine. It's a wonderful teacher for myofascial work, and he does these weekend seminars, and a group will meet in Sedona. They have these beautiful, like a
Wow.
vortex, and they will do these hikes through the canyons and everything. And one of the stories was that, the group would come together and they would sort of start one of the meetings by, each therapist would sort of share something in their lives that they feel is maybe a blockage for them, something that's holding them back, something that's, essentially preventing them in their, sort of slowing them down in their healing journey, whatever that
Mhm.
means. And there was a gentleman, a therapist in the group, and everyone knew that he was the biggest athlete. He would run like 20 miles a day. He was a big marathon guy. He never went a day without running significant distances. And when it was his turn in the group to say something, he said, I feel great. I really can't think of anything, any issue, anything that's holding me back in life. I'm just amazing. And and that's, first of all, if that's true, that would be fantastic too. It was
Wow.
just the
That
teacher
must
in the
feel
group.
nice.
The teacher in the group said to the group, "We are all running towards something or running away from something." And he asked the guy, "Why do you think you're always running?" And he started to cry. And
Oh,
he said, "No one ever asked me that question before."
whoa.
And then he, got into some deeper things with himself and sort of realized he wasn't running for pleasure. He was running because it was a distraction for him in his life. It was the only time when he felt like he could just escape everything and just run away from all the things that were stressing him out.
Wow.
But so for all of us, something even that's seemingly healthy could be, something that is an escape, a coping mechanism, and it looks like something that could be positive when in
Right,
fact
like
it's
like people
in
stuck in
excess.
absolutely people stuck in the flight survival state are very, very functional, productive people.
Yeah,
But then they come to see us and they're exhausted and they have all kinds of pains that they can't
yeah,
understand, and there's no physical reason for it, right? So
right,
flight is great. You're very busy, you're very active and productive, but it's still a survival state,
right.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, as I said, I'm a big fan of a lot of different modalities. And the one that I am especially drawn to is myofascial release and fascial work. And what I feel is so special about it is that when we are, when we look at animals, I know you mentioned something about animals earlier, and I've shared this with you before.
Yeah, I often look at animals.
Yeah.
Because they're
It,
so
it,
they're so pure.
yeah. And they're so in that I'm saying the comparison would be they're so in their right brain.
They
It's
really
like
are. They are.
they're always in their body.
Yeah.
And we as a society, we have become so disconnected from our bodies. And one of the most incredible videos I've ever seen that gave an example of this was we were talking about fight, flight, or freeze response. And often when we experience trauma, um, we we will have one of those three reactions: fight, flight, or freeze. I think for most of us, it's usually a freeze response where we just kind of, a moment happens, we kind of hold it all in and we move on. And animals don't do that. And we really shouldn't do it either. We have to, because if we don't deal with it, like we were saying earlier, it will show up as a symptom in the body.
Right.
That unprocessed issue, whatever it is. I saw a video once of a polar bear. I shared this with you that it was tranquilized, and it was a long video, but at the end, when the polar bear woke up, it stood up and it was sort of looking like it was having a seizure. It was sort
And
of
shake. And
shaking,
shake. Right.
powerfully,
Right.
violently shaking for about 5 minutes. And
That's the
then
release. That's the
it
energy
was
release.
it was a release, and he shook and shook and shook, and then calmly and peacefully walked away.
Right.
And that fear and the whatever it was that he experienced as he was passing out from being tranquilized, all that adrenaline was stuck in the system. Then all the adrenaline, that whole experience was released from the system.
Absolutely.
And we do not do that. We do not allow ourselves. It doesn't have to be a big event of shaking and screaming, but it could be. And and sometimes it's what that is what's needed. It has to be felt to be released. And so,
Right.
to mention,
Even your example of your running guy. Like I'm wondering what really was he running from? Was there
right,
ever a time where he wanted to get away from something and he couldn't? It's the
right,
first question I ask my clients is, have you ever been stuck in any moment where you couldn't get out of it? So
right,
he might not even remember that. It could be as a child,
right,
right?
right. Well, and then you can feel it in the body wherever we feel stuck. We are also stuck. So, so, I, we can feel the effect in the body, and it just shows up. And sometimes we don't have to know what happened to us to release it. We don't
Correct.
always have to
Correct.
even remember it to release it, but we do have to feel it to release it.
Right, and your
And
body will do that for you. If you are feeling safe enough, your body will
yeah,
release it. Yeah,
yeah,
very much
yeah.
so.
And sometimes, and sometimes people don't, sometimes a person doesn't want to feel. Sometimes it's safer, as you said, you mentioned being happy, how it's very difficult for someone. That might be a completely unfamiliar experience to the person. It's whatever's familiar is comfortable sometimes for people. I've worked on people before that um, I was doing a certain release wherever it would be on the body. The person said, I can't even feel that. And it was like
Wow. Oh
elbow
my
in
goodness. I know
and
you're strong.
they said I can't even feel that. And I can understand that, because especially when the fascial system, which is one system that extends without interruption from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet, when it starts to dehydrate from all these life experiences, whether it's emotional or physical, the system starts to dehydrate. The cells lose their hydration. The collagen dehydrates. And then we have a situation where the nerves and blood vessels sort of get trapped within this web of fascia. And it makes sense that a person would, it's interesting, they would maybe physically feel numb. And just for the interesting point, they all that might also mirror the way they feel emotionally. Like,
Wow.
feel so numb. I don't even want to feel this. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel this. And
Right.
we can't make no, it's a system that cannot be forced. So, I'm a big fan of chiropractic work. I see a chiropractor every week, and it does help. It does help. And um, I also have fascial work done because it's 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 a different approach. It's something different. But I found that it's also it also can be a very emotional experience because
Mhm.
when you start to feel deeply in certain parts of the body, and here I am touching my shoulders, I'm like, oh, maybe I need to.
You're
I
doing
think
it
my
already to yourself.
yeah. Um, and so when we start to feel it, it can really shake a person up. It can really shake you up. There's a lot of scientific articles and other articles written about this. It's called the healing crisis. As soon as we start to feel the what's going on in the body, people can get very stirred up.
That is
For
such a good point. Wow. Because that's the first thing I tell my clients is the first few weeks you could be really angry and some of them come back and they're like, what is going on? Right? Like it's a shock.
yeah,
Like, because it's
yeah,
almost like everything coming to the surface. Like you've never had a moment to release that. So it can be
yeah,
quite intense in the beginning.
absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes it can be just very peaceful and calm, and that's great too. It's
That'd
just
be nice.
every session looks different, and every day is different. And sometimes we're ready for really uh, being open moment by moment to see whatever's unfolding in the body. We're very open to whatever comes up, and
Mhm.
sometimes we're not open to that. Sometimes we're not ready to feel, and that's okay too. um but either way, whether we consciously want to let something go or not, or we consciously or like, no, I'm comfortable being numb, either way it's having a big effect on a physical level and on an emotional level, spiritual
Right.
level too. But it's having an effect that is, the more time that passes where all of these things are unprocessed and they're not felt. Because on a physical level, what happens with the fascial system, the longer it's dehydrated, then what happens is that the fascia, the connective tissue, is collagen and elastin, and it is a shock absorbing system. So it should be filled with fluid, should be hydrated, and it should easily move. And when we experience trauma, that system, as I said, dehydrates. And
Mhm.
if it and the more time that goes by, the tighter and tighter and tighter it gets. And it wraps itself around pain sensitive structures like nerves and organs and muscles and blood vessels and the lymphatic system. It starts squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. And
It makes so much sense. The tightness of the tension is the absolute opposite of what we try to achieve, which is the expansion and the softness and the openness, right?
yeah, yeah,
Which like you said, you can't force it.
no, it's a system that can't be forced. And studies have shown that um, the at its maximum potential, the fascial system can generate up to 2,000 pounds of pressure per
Wow.
square inch.
Wow.
2,000 pounds of pressure. This is a system that it really cannot be forced. It can only truly release when when that, I guess the way I would say it would be to take the brakes off. Like we just even if it's for a minute, we experience that moment of, okay, I'm just gonna
Release. Yeah, it's a total release.
let go and I'm gonna feel now. And the more we practice that, and the longer we have that experience of tapping into the right brain, feeling safe to let go, feeling what it feels like to let go, getting into some of those messy messy feelings that come up and in the physical sensations that come up, it will be the best thing anyone can ever do for themselves.
Right.
Really.
And I think that's a real beautiful definition of healing. And again, you're never fully there, but the road to healing that you're really getting down through those layers is that you allow yourself to feel and to live back in the body. Um, People are coming into the clinic with all kinds of somatic symptoms that there's no physical reason for, like
Mm.
sinuses that are stuck that nothing can shift,
Yes. Yeah.
or painful shoulders or painful muscles. Like it makes perfect sense with your tightening of the whole system, and even the nervous system is going to give you symptoms where your digestion will be affected and your breathing
Yeah.
and sleep, right? All of that is so closely related to releasing a lot of that
Right.
tension.
I think too, the other thing that we have to keep in mind as therapists, because most of our listeners are healers or therapists or people who want to go into to healing.
Right. As
They
well
were interested.
as well as people that want to
Clients.
heal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I was going to say about talking about the language that we use as therapists, because not everyone will connect with certain terms. Like when we say, oh, out of our body, or we're making a connection between the physical and the emotional stuff. Some people might not connect with that. And I don't really think, I think it's important to use the terminology and the language that that client or that therapist connects the most with, because in the end it's we're going to have the same effect. Some people we can just sense they're more open to hearing certain language, and some people they're not so open to, oh, let's talk about, oh, we, when you were 7 years old you left your body, and some people aren't open for that, and that's
Right.
okay. We can still do the work and we can still do what we do. We don't always have to explain in our linear logical way all the time.
Right.
I think that's one of the hardest things to do. And I think the best way to think about it is to think of ourselves how we are when we're around animals and children. We're so playful, and we don't even have to talk so much. We're
Hmm.
just tapping in.
Your body relaxes
Yeah, we're just,
completely.
I in my front yard, just Erev Shabbos the other day, I had 6 deer in my front yard. Yeah, they
Whoa.
came up, and then a cat came up, and I was just standing there, and the deer were so close; they were just a few feet away,
Wow.
and I was just in this moment with them, and the cat was rubbing against my legs, and it was just a beautiful, special moment.
They're
Um,
so
and
peaceful. They're so peaceful
yeah,
that you can't not be affected by it,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But I would say that some of my most beautiful um, experiences with in body work sessions with different therapists have been when I just had the space to really, I had permission not to talk and to just really feel for as long as I needed to. And sometimes also in the sessions talking is very valuable too, but it's not a common experience to have someone working on your body, touching you, working on areas where you're feeling this tension and these issues, and just being in the silence with you. That's not such a
Wow.
familiar experience, but when we quiet down together, it is very profound. And we don't have that experience so often. I went to a chiropractor the other day, and I might have mentioned this to you before. But I was very happy to be there. I was couldn't wait just for an adjustment. I was just like, oh, just crack my
Fix
back.
me.
And the chiropractor did a couple things, and there was a pause, and I just took some deep breaths, and my body I had a little shaking action. I don't know. It was very just in the moment. I just like kind of shook my body a little bit. The therapist freaked out and
Wow.
came right to my ear and said, "Are you okay?" And
Wow.
I was like, "Yes, yes, I'm fine. I'm fine." And I could tell that this person had never seen someone's body shake. And even though it was just a 3-second thing, they were very concerned
Right.
because it wasn't the linear, sequential, step by step. It wasn't part of the protocol. It was like, you're not supposed to be shaking right now. That's not what we do here. But that was what my body needed in that moment. And I guarantee you, if I went back to this person, I will never do subconsciously, my body will not let me get to that level of healing again with that
Wow.
person.
Wow.
Not
Wow.
because they're not a great chiropractor, they can be a fantastic chiropractor, but we're so caught up in protocols and titles and what degree do you have? And, we're so caught up in that, all of these things that are important, they do have value. It's just that we sort of lost the emphasis on the other part of ourselves, that the healer within all of us. We all have the ability to heal ourselves,
Oh, I love
and
that. Thank you for
we
saying
all
that.
we
That is
all have
so
that.
real. So real. Thank
and
you for saying that.
and also too, I will say this, and I think you might have mentioned this, but no one is healing us. That we just have someone there to guide us.
Mhm.
And any healing that's going on is a reflection of how deeply we were willing as clients to let go.
Right.
That was a reflection of our willingness to say, I'm going to take the brakes off. I'm going to let go. I'm going to release right now. I'm going to have the courage to feel, because that is a very, very, very brave thing to do.
Which
To
kind of
have,
felt like going through the fire. Like literally, we got
yeah,
burned into that. It was painful for every single person that got there,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
maybe that's something that the clients can pick up and sense is that this person has done the work.
absolutely.
They've gone
Absolutely.
through it.
Absolutely. And I think that for anyone out there, and particularly, and I think we all find this with the people in our lives that are the most inspirational, the people who have taught us the most, the people that we go to for advice when we're having a hard time, the healers or the therapists that we go to when we really need something. We all know, whether it's on an intuitive level or whether it's on a literal level, we know that these people have been through significant challenges in life. They have been through hard, hard, hard things.
Right.
And we know that they overcame them, and that inspires us. And it gives us the reassurance to know they did this, and it gives me courage. I can do this too. I can
Right,
get through
right.
my own thing.
Beautiful.
So when we think about our own, even if you're an accountant or whatever it is that you're doing and you're experiencing this pain, finding the way, finding the meaning in the pain is extremely important. And telling ourselves we're not going through this for no reason. Even if it's something like, oh, God forbid, your back hurts or your foot hurts, like, don't tell yourself this is meaningless. Don't tell yourself there's no purpose for this. There is a purpose for this pain.
And I think
Whether
that's where
whether
God
even
comes in.
to help one person you're going to meet down the road, there is a purpose for this pain, and we don't know right now, but there is a purpose for it.
But
So
I think you brought in a bit of spirituality in the beginning, and not everyone has met God or per se met, but like has a relationship with him or that has led him into their lives. And for me, I think God really came into the healing process where I got to a certain point. I mean, if you met me 5 years ago, I was not someone that could feel hard feelings or, was total
mm,
avoidant. Um, Give me anything to stop the pain, like not want to look at it, disassociated.
yes,
PTSD
yes,
is a very painful thing to live with. And until like I said, you said we went through the fire and we opened up our hearts and we were like, okay, I've had enough of living this way, and I want to look that pain in the eyes and process it and deal with it and let it through my body because it was horrible the side effects of not doing that. Right? You
right,
get to a point where you don't want to live that way. Hopefully, you don't want to live that way anymore. And the other side is way more appealing than continuing on that path. And I think for me, and again, I'm not preaching God to anyone, and everyone needs to believe what they believe. But for me personally, things really shifted when I let God in and turned to Him for help. And I don't know what your experience with God is, but for me, I really think that was the turning point that he helped me through, like that I didn't have to do it alone, right? You keep saying about meaning and Viktor Frankl in his book said how you can suffer any amount of suffering, and I'm not taking lightly anyone's grief of losing a loved one, or sadness, or pain. There's so much pain. I mean, just being alive, you're going to experience painful things. That's what a human being is. And bringing in that meaning for me is God does everything for my good. I trust that. I trust that. And that's what gets me through the hard times, and kind of like lifts me out of the darkness of it.
Yeah, I think I read that book recently, and I think the quote was something like, if you have a why, you can endure, you
Yes,
can
anyhow.
endure
Yes,
anyhow.
yes, 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 exactly. And for me, my why is that I am a worker or a tool or a shaliach of Hashem, and whatever He thinks I should be going through today. And there's some really hard stuff. For example, my cousin who's 40 years old lost her husband. She's still sitting shiva right now, to a car accident in Ashdod a few days ago, and you just can't understand like the reasons behind such pain. My teenage daughter, when my mother passed away from COVID, came to me and was like, Ima, why does Hashem make a world where you can love someone and then they can be taken away? And I didn't have an answer for her, but
Mm,
going through this healing process, the more and more I see grief and I understand grief, and any kind of loss or sadness, or there could even be the grief of your childhood, that you didn't have the childhood you wanted. It still brings me back every time to Hashem, and He has a reason. Like you said, I think you said a minute ago, if it's to help one person in a similar situation, and they can you can benefit their lives in a better way, then that was the reason, right? We're not going to
right.
know the reasons, but I trust deeply that Hashem has a good reason for everything that happens, even though it seems impossible to understand. He has a good reason for it, and I trust Him.
I love that. Yeah, it's, we're looking around and seeing so much happening in the world, and and people are going through so much, and it's anyone that comes to us, whoever's coming to us, whether it's, especially whoever's in our family, those are the people that Hashem is like, these are your people. And then we
Wow.
have our colleagues, and we have our friends, and then we have our clients. And people are going through so much right now. And you know step by step, each one of us, when we're willing to go deeper and to deal with our own things, not only does it, I mean, people that I work with that have a lot of shoulder pain
Oh my
and neck
goodness.
pain,
Shoulder pain, neck
they
pain, huge.
I hear it all the time. They feel like they're carrying the weight of the world. They always say, I have so many things on my plate right now. I'm carrying everything. They use those words without realize, like it's like there's something on their shoulders and they're carrying it. And when I was growing up, my parents were very old school. It was like, you don't need to go to the doctor for anything. We don't need anything special. Are you breathing? You eating? It was like that thing, and now we are realizing how important it is to also take time for ourselves and to really figure out how to let go of some of these things, because it's too much. It's not just in a physical sense, but holding on to all of this stuff and letting it sit in the body and not shaking it off like that polar bear, not finding the way to release it is really, not only is it not good for us emotionally and spiritually, but take it to just the physical level. It's crushing. It's a
Why
crushing
why aren't we taught this? Like, why aren't kids in school taught how to release difficult feelings? Because there's such a buildup, and that's where I very much believe chronic illness, mental health. it's so based on the ability to feel difficult feelings and learn how to let them go. I don't know why we're not taught this as people.
Well, there is a shift happening, and here we are today. We're talking about it, and everyone that's listening, we're all collectively realizing how important this is for ourselves, for our children, for our clients. And if you're someone out there that you're drawn into a healing profession, no matter what it doesn't even have to be an official degree or title. You could be a dance teacher. You could
Right.
be exercising. You could
Yoga teacher, an
cooking,
artist, whatever.
anyone,
Yeah,
whoever is coming to you, and you're helping someone with something, that is your purpose.
right,
Even if you're not, even if it's you're at home, you're taking care of your kids, that is your purpose.
right.
And the more we can, you know, I think one of the questions that we were going to get to today, I will go ahead, and it's just coming to me. What was the last question about the healed version of ourselves? Something about like
Right.
what.
What would the healed version of
Yes.
yourself look
And
like?
I come back to the example again of watching my daughter playing this morning with her friend and seeing these animals in my front yard. You know, we have got to learn to get, it's actually unlearning now that I think about it. We already have the
It's
ability.
completely unlearning. We
Yeah,
already know it.
unlearn. Yeah,
We
we have to
already know it.
unlearn all of staying stuck in our left brain all the time, analyzing
Exactly.
and figuring it out and analyzing it and analyzing and pondering and thinking and why, asking why a million times, and shifting into that creative, intuitive healer that's inside of all of us.
It's a
It
freedom.
really, it really is inside all of us,
Right. It's already
and
there. You don't have to
already
find it
there.
or make it or learn it. It's already there. It's the
Yeah,
layers. Like you said, when we grow and we have experiences and sad experiences too, right? We learn
yes,
this is dangerous. It's better to
yeah,
stay quiet, like that example of that person you said, stay quiet, behave yourself because you can't have time for your emotions coming out, right?
yeah.
So it's an unlearning, really.
I had someone recently ask me, um, they want to go, they want to have some kind of body work done, but they don't know which thing to choose. But whether, they don't know if they should do acupuncture or reflexology or what, there's so many things to try. And maybe I mentioned this earlier, but I would just say that if you are a person who's looking into having something done on yourself, um, again, I just want to repeat that I think it's a lot less important which specific modality you're choosing, and it's a lot more important to see how safe and connected you feel to the person who's working with you.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be, that's the biggest part of it, because when you're in a room with a person, they've done the work too, and they can just meet you where you are in your messy moment, and you have permission, if you want to cry, or you can sit still in silence, or you can talk, you have the permission to be seen fully in that moment.
Hmm.
That's going to be the most healing thing. That's going to help the body reorganize more than anything else, is having that permission to let go. And so the modality is really secondary. It's really the person that you're with. Um,
That's
and then,
beautiful.
all,
I
and
love
then,
that. Thank you. Thank you for
yeah,
that. I love that. And I think just to wrap it up, I think thank you for this beautiful talk and hopefully we'll do it again one day. And I hope it helped someone out there and brought meaning to someone's life. And really, I think the healing process, to wrap it up, to summarize exactly what you said, is to allow yourself to feel these difficult feelings like grief, sorrow, sadness, fear, anger. They're really hard to hold in the body. And if you can allow that physical sensation in all of its, you know, difficulty that it comes with for 2 or 3 minutes, really, it does, and maybe grief, I'd say is not so simple, but something like
yes,
anger or fear, um, really, if you give it those something as small as 2 minutes and
yeah,
breathe and ground and feel those physical sensations, it'll pass pretty
well.
quickly.
It
right? But
will.
people don't
And
know
it,
that. People don't know that. It's the fighting, it's the stopping that makes it a problem and stuck.
yeah. And think of how many times, like you mentioned earlier, how many times some of us were told as children, many of us, just be quiet.
Oh yeah,
Just
sit
don't be, you know,
still.
I don't be, you're not seen, you're not
Yeah,
heard, be quiet, stop crying, don't do it,
right.
and then it's like no one ever gave us permission to feel anything. So it's a
That's
very,
huge.
it's,
I'm
yeah,
convinced ADHD children are a ball of energy that just was never able to release that, right?
yeah,
It's the busyness that's inside that they could never really ground and be allowed to be seen. Because how hard would it be for an adult to see an angry child and hold their feelings if they've never done it for themselves? If
yeah,
you as an adult cannot hold your own angry feelings, how can you do that for someone else?
absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Right? So thank you. Thank you for this beautiful talk.
Thank
I just
you. It's so
really,
nice to
really
see
loved
you.
speaking with you and
You
be
too.
well. And I hope you see your
Thank you.
deers again soon and send me a
Me
picture.
too. I hope so too. It was beautiful.
All right. Send me a
Thank
picture.
you.
God bless.
Okay.
Bye, sweetie. Bye bye.
Bye.